It's Kyle back again with another edition of Friday Agronomist. Coming back again from the office this week because mosquitoes are just chasing me out of pretty much every field we're in, and if I stand stationary for more than 5 minutes, I just get eaten alive. The one thing we want to talk about this week is going to be corn diseases again. We just learned within the last couple of days that bacterial leaf streak has made its way into Wisconsin. It's a fairly new disease for us again. Obviously, it's a very new disease for Wisconsin, but it's just one of those things where you just keep finding these things popping up in Wisconsin. Bacterial leaf streak is a fairly new disease. We're going to have more updates on that kind of as we get into things here. It's only been found and confirmed really in one county so far, but it's another thing we'll have to pay attention to during winter meetings this year. The other thing we got going on is still tar spot. We're really noticing a lot of hybrid differences in how tar spot's being handled between different hybrids, even different companies. Right now, the biggest recommendation from Damon Smith and a lot of other university researchers is to get out and look at fields, look at hybrid plots, look at any kind of differences you have, especially if you have any side-by-sides in the field. Just get a chance to get out there and take a look and see how each one's handling this disease. One of the things I saw this morning from the University of Illinois is they went out and evaluated one test plot, and they took 6 leaves from each block of hybrids, and each hybrid had varying degrees of how it handled tar spot. One of them was at a 2.5% incidence, so out of those 6 leaves, 2.5% of the leaves had some kind of tar spot on them, to up to 44%. So it's definitely hybrid specific on how they're handling this disease as we kind of progress. The other thing we've got going on, besides sending a bunch of tar spot samples in, is I've been collecting a lot of water hemp samples this week. So I've got a lot of water hemp going in to get sampled for herbicide resistance in Wisconsin. And the biggest thing I struggle with this week taking those samples was trying to tell male versus female plants. Some fields it's been very, very easy, where we have plants that weren't affected by herbicide. You can really easily tell between male and female. The male plants always seem to have a big single spike on the top of their seed head. The female plants, they have more branches on the seed heads. They just kind of, they look a lot different. You'll see a lot more leaves and stuff kind of around the seed head. You'll see more branches on them. And the male plants, they just have like a single spike that shoots up. I've seen them up to a couple feet, usually are about 6 to 12 inches long. So when you're collecting those samples, you want to make sure you check between the two. But where we've had herbicide and actually ding the plants, we've got a lot of lateral branching off of the main growing point on these plants. So it's been kind of hard to distinguish the two, but you got to just kind of pay attention. The other thing is, we had people ask, is the color a difference? I mean, there's probably 3 or 4 different colors of water hemp. You go out and there's red ones, there's green ones, there's yellow ones. Color really doesn't make a difference. When I'm trying to get the samples, to me, each one of those is kind of a different biotype. So I'm trying to grab as many different color plants as I can, and just different leaf orientations. I'm trying to grab as many different biotypes as what I can get out of those fields. So the whole point is to try to get a good representative sample of that field, so that when we do spray them with herbicide in the greenhouse, that we know which ones are actually going to be resistant and which ones are going to be resistant to different herbicides. So it's just as random of a sample as you can get. That's the best thing to get them in. The other thing I've kind of learned with taking these water hemp samples is it's taken me about 2 or 3 days to get them dried down to where they're actually going to be able to ship. So you don't want to just pick them green, throw them in a box and send them to Rodrigo and those guys at UW and Madison. You want to make sure you set them down, I've been putting them in a paper, just a paper grocery bag, letting them sit for 2 or 3 days with that bag open. Some of the samples that are coming back a little early on the early side, they still have viable seed in them. Those are a little greener. I've been putting a fan on them for a couple days just to try to help them dry down. So lastly, I kind of want to talk about a couple things as we start working on equipment that I found really helpful in the past. One of those is when we're starting to take stuff apart, kind of utilizing smartphone technology here a little bit, is I've been taking a lot of pictures of, as we're starting to take things apart, we'll take pictures of what it looks like before we put it took it apart. So when we put it back together, we know exactly where things are going to go back in. The other thing that's really cool about most of the newer phones, especially one of the new iPhones, we've come out with a new slow-mo video mode. So you can actually take a slow motion video. I think my iPhone 6 was capable of doing that. Now I'm on an iPhone 10 and it's still capable of doing it. The nice part is when you're doing chains or even that, like the clean grain elevator, any of these fast moving objects, you want to check how they're running on a sprocket, or any of the chains that are moving around, is you can take a slow motion video of it and actually see how that thing is riding, and it gets you a pretty good idea of where everything's at. And it's been really, really cool. It's kind of been interesting to see a slow motion video of how everything's running at full speed. So you can see if there's any play or slack in that chain, and make any adjustments you need to. And it makes the job a lot easier. You're not kind of standing there trying to watch and see if there's something going on. You can play it back and get a really good picture of what's going on. So as I kind of get into more equipment stuff, we get closer to bean harvest, I'll probably start talking a lot more about combine settings. We really don't have a good idea of picture of what's going to happen in fields yet. I'm kind of concerned we might see a few green stems. We're not sure how pod conditions are going to be this year, especially with all the flooding and everything we've had recently to the north. So kind of stay tuned. I'd say in the next couple of weeks we're going to have some more combine setting videos. Probably try to do one live in the field or in the cab. So stay tuned for future updates, and I'll see you next week.